Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Silver Years. My name is DK, and I'm very happy to be here today, and I humbly thank you for joining me. What I'd like to do today is something a little bit different, and I'm going to wing it. So bear with me as I learn to do this. But what I want to do is tell my story. And this is just a little bit for posterity, and I'm calling this my story time. It's my protest against his story. So now I want to tell my story, and I want to tell it my way with my words. And what I'm going to do is describe some experiences that I've had throughout these segments that really have no connection to anyone in my family or anyone I care about. These are just experiences that have contributed to who I am today. These are part of my genetic imprints. They're my memories, my experiences, and they did contribute a lot to who I am today and why I am that way. But they aren't things that I discuss around the holiday table with family or anything. I mean, my kids don't even know these stories because they don't care. It's just something that happened to me. But some of these things are kind of comical, and they are from a time, my work years and things like that. And I did have many decades of a professional career, so I have a lot of experiences in that. But it's not in today's world. Okay. The experience I'm going to talk about today took place around 1987. So it was a while ago. I was living in Denver, working in downtown Denver, and I had worked myself out of a job. And the colleague that I had worked with, the both of us, we had worked ourselves out of this particular job because we had a asset management company, and we had managed all the assets. So there are no more assets to manage. So now I had to go find something else. So how was I going to do that? And I didn't want to go into the same direction. I wanted to do something a little bit different because at that time I was handling transactions that were on the foreclosure end that were troubled, and it gets really depressing after a while. So I wanted to go into more the origination, into the beginning, where everybody's excited and happy to be calling you and getting together with you because you're going to be able to help them. So I really like that. And what I was doing was commercial property. So it was tied to commercial real estate. So I had sent out my resumes, and no, we did not have internet then, so nothing was done online. So I sent out my resumes, and I got a call from a company named that I'm going to call Magog. Okay. And Magog was an origination company. They had two satellite offices. The headquarters was in Denver, and they had an office in Orange County, California, and they had another office in Phoenix, Arizona. So I interacted with those offices, but I was hired into the Denver office when I interviewed. So it had three owners, and the one owner, and I'm going to call him Gog of Magog. Okay, Gog was one owner that I had to interview with. So I got called for an interview. So I went in and I interviewed. The thing is that I wanted to find a way to sort of change it up. Okay, so just so you know, at the time I did not wear glasses, although I did have a pair of glasses that I had acquired several years before, and they had like a very small um, uh, prescription just for reading. That was it. It was a bifocal basically. But now remember, it was 1987, so the look of the time was the Sally Jesse Raphael look. And if you don't know who she is, she was a talk show host during that era, right up there with Dinah Shore and some of the others. I mean, I'm dating myself, but who cares? Um, so I had these glasses, and at the time too, the business section of the Denver Post and all the other Rocky Mountain News, they were all going on and on about what they called the boardroom look. Okay, the boardroom look included certain things. So I show up for this interview with these glasses. Now, hold on just a minute. Hold on. We're gonna change it up. Okay. So believe it or not, I still have them. Okay, here they are. My Sally Jesse Raphael glasses. Okay, I can't really see very well because they're useless to me now. But anyway, so I go and I have this interview, and then I get called back and I have the second interview. But the second interview was for lunch. So I had to meet Gog for a meal. So I showed up at the restaurant, and of course I had these glasses, and mind you that the bottom of them is magnifying. So I'm trying to eat and deal with the food on my plate, and everything's magnified, and I can't really see it. And oh, I don't even know how I fumbled through it. But anyhow, I did, and then um, I got hired. So the problem was I was supposed to start on a Monday, which was pretty typical. But on Friday, the Friday before it, I got sick. I mean, sick like I hadn't been sick in 10 years. It was flu sick, and it was so bad I couldn't get out of bed for 3 days. I It took me totally down. And on my first day that I was supposed to come in, I was still deathly ill, could not get out of bed, and I had to call in sick my first day. Of course, that was horrible for me because I was raised to work. I was taught you work, and you never nobody cares if you're sick. You show up, you perform. So it really took a toll on me having to call in sick the first day. And, sometimes jobs don't really believe it. Okay. So by the second day, I forced myself to get out of bed. And I showed up and I was so very sick. I coughed so hard that, I mean, everybody in the office knew obviously that I wasn't faking it, and it was awful terrible. And Gog fortunately had to leave town for the rest of that week. So on my way home on Tuesday, I dropped him at the airport, and I didn't have to come back until the next Monday because he was pretty much gone the rest of the week. So I got a little bit of time. Anyway, when I showed up for work the following week, or that Tuesday, and even the following week, of course, the glasses did not come with me. Okay. I never showed up with the glasses again. Okay. I'm going to keep on here. So Gog never said anything to me, but I never showed up with the glasses. But I want to say that about a year later, he brought it up casually, and it was something, and he said something about the glasses, and I just started laughing, and I said, "Oh," I said, "you thought I was smart with those glasses." And he sort of turned red. Well, not that I'm not smart, but it's all in aesthetics, right? I said, "You thought I was smart." I said, "You hired me because of those glasses. You thought I was smart." And he kind of went, yeah, and it's like, joke's on you, dude. Anyway, he would never get rid of me. I worked for him for probably 5.5 years. In fact, I didn't leave that company until I went to Montana, which is a whole other story. And I told that story in my book, Living the Big Sky Life, if anyone's interested. So this Gog that I worked for was such a character. I have a lot of stories to tell. He taught me a lot. He was very difficult. I sort of had a love-hate thing with him, but over time I grew to respect him, and he taught me some things, but man, he made it really, really, really hard. So I think what I'm going to do is tell some stories about some of my experience with Gog. But in the meantime, I would not have gotten this job. So anyway, I've kept these glasses for posterity because I think I got that job because of these glasses, even though I never showed up with them again. And he just would, every once in a while he would look at me kind of strange, but then he would never say anything. He would never approach me about the fact that I no longer had glasses. So, for the record, that's my story today. I got a job because of these glasses, and it was kind of fun. It makes me laugh about it even now. Um, I have a lot more to say, and I'll probably talk about it in my next story time. Thanks for listening. This is For the Record. Now, if you have a fun story you want to tell, don't hesitate in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. This is my story, For the Record, and I'm sticking to it. Until next time, be well, choose love, and thank you for listening. Goodbye for now.